guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Danny Taylor, owner of Vegan Proteins and founder of Team Plant Built, and we are doing our emotional eating series. So we've covered so many topics, but maybe you've taken care of all those things we talked about, but the urge to binge or overeat still comes up. What do you do? First of all, I think it's important to remember that although there are physiological and environmental reasons why we binge or overeat, a lot of times it simply comes down to habit. When this is something that happens to you regularly, a lot of times it can become something that we begin to rely on, or it's just habitual, like biting your nails. It's not something that you necessarily want to do, but it's just something that you're so used to doing that you just continue doing it because it's kind of what you do. So basically at this point, you want to try to break the habit. And one of the best ways to break the habit is to realize that those urges are going to come, but to sort of make a deal with yourself that you are going to do all that you can to not give in to those urges. So going all the way back to the beginning, it's important to remember that at this point, you're already making sure you're eating enough, making sure that you're spacing your food out correctly, not excluding any macronutrients, giving your attention to your food. If you're doing all of those things, then this is where it can become time to sort of just buckle down and white knuckle your way through these urges. So that's very, very important. I don't want you to be white knuckling your way through urges to eat food if you're dramatically under eating. That doesn't make sense. I'm talking about when all of your needs are being met, then it can be time to try to make it through the overeating urges without giving in. So one of the best ways to do this, in my opinion, is to distract yourself. And when I was going through my own eating disorder, which one of the largest behaviors in my own personal eating disorder, which if you're interested to hear that story, let me know. I have recorded it, but I thought maybe people aren't interested and maybe it's just like a little bit too personal. But if it's something that you're interested in hearing, let me know down below. One of the main things that got me to the other side of my own personal eating disorder were distraction techniques. Those urges to binge still came up. And at first, they would come up multiple times a day. I would get urges to overeat or binge. I had to create a toolkit of ways to distract myself from these urges until they passed. And the good thing to know is that they pass and they become less frequent the longer you go without giving into them. So maybe when you first start this, you're getting an urge every single night when you get home from work. But the longer you can go without giving into it, the more you begin to break that habit. So think about your brain like this. I like to think of your brain like a hill of sand, and pretend there's a marble at the top of the hill of sand, and you push it down this pathway. It creates a little groove. You put the marble back at the top, you push it down the pathway, it's gonna go down the same groove. Our habits are the exact same way. Our instinct is to take the path of least resistance, to take that groove. But what we can do by distracting and pushing through these urges without giving in is we can start to create another groove. A groove where we don't give in to binging and overeating. A groove where we find something else to do. A groove where we acknowledge that maybe we have these feelings, but just sort of wait for them to pass. But waiting for them to pass on their own can be excruciatingly hard in my own experience. So come up with a list of things that you can do when these urges arise, and I'll give you some of my suggestions here, but this list is completely limitless and it can be completely unique to you. It will be completely unique to you. So for me, some of my biggest ones, okay? Going for a walk. When you're out for a walk, you're certainly not eating. Taking a bath. Most of us aren't eating in the bath. Reading a book. If it's a good fiction book that you're really wrapped up in, this can be a great one. Painting your nails. This is kind of a funny one, but it works really well because it's meticulous. You have to give a lot of attention to it, and then your nails are wet for a half an hour. Probably not going to be able to eat. Calling a friend or talking to a friend or a family member on the phone. You don't have to talk to them about, you don't have to call them and be like, hey, I'm having an urge to binge and I need somebody to talk to. Although if that's something you want to do and you have that kind of relationship, go for it. But even just calling and be like, hey, how's your day going, is super distracting, and it's kind of a nice thing to do. playing with your dogs or playing with your fur babies or your real babies and just spending some time with them that way. Arts and crafts. Oh my God, arts and crafts. So I am a crafty person in general. I love getting my hands into arts and crafts. So if you like that sort of things like knitting, crocheting, jewelry making. For me, I did paint by numbers because I'm not like artistically inclined, but I still like to paint. So I did the sophisticated paint by numbers, and that could easily eat up an hour of my time. Now you might be thinking, Dan, I don't have time to do that. If you want to break this habit, if you want to change this part of your life, you are going to have to carve out some time to dedicate to it. And we've already done a lot of hard work in terms of working towards stopping emotionally eating. But those urges are still going to come, and it's going to require some time and focus to get through them without giving into them. What I would like you to do is get a piece of paper and write down a list of things you can do when those binge urges arise. When they arise, that's not the time to start thinking of ideas. You want to do it when you are when you have all of your wits about you and you're not thinking about food. That's when you want to come up with a list of things to do. Get supplies if you have to for these. For a long time, I literally had a shoebox full of things to do when these urges arised. It included things like Play-Doh and bubble wrap and coloring books. Lots of things to do when the urge to binge hit me, so that I had something else to do. And most of the time, if I could get through it for about 30 minutes, the urge definitely softened or went away completely. And then usually, after an hour or two, it was just time to eat my normal meal anyway. And by then, I could sit down and eat my normal meal, be satisfied with it, and be done. So having a list of distraction techniques to get you to the other side of those binges is definitely going to start to create that new groove. And you might find a week later that maybe you're only hearing that urge once every 2 days or once every 3 days. And then one day you'll wake up and realize you almost never have them at all. I'm not saying you'll never have them. Maybe some night, down the line, you have a bad night of sleep and you still get that urge. But now you have so many tools to realize why you're feeling that way and tools to distract yourself through it, or to just rectify the situation. Maybe you went too long without eating, you get the urge to binge and you're like, I know why this is happening. And you have a healthy meal and you just move right along. But the point is, the actual animalistic sort of tunnel vision binge urges will start to soften and start to lessen in their frequency the more times you can get through a binge urge without giving into it. So I hope this video is helpful for you. If there was one thing that helped me get through my eating disorder more than anything else, it was this tip, this video right here. If it were not for the distraction techniques I had employed, I don't know that I ever would have got to a point where I could break the bad habit of binging that I was in at that point, because I was eating enough. I wasn't excluding any food groups. I was emotionally taking care of myself, and still those urges were there. And that's when I realized, oh, this is just a really nasty habit at this point that I've created, and I need to break it, just like somebody would have to stop smoking. And it's hard to break a habit, especially when, it floods us with dopamine and serotonin as food oftentimes can. It can be hard to break that habit, but it is well worth the investment. If there's anything else you guys want me to cover about this topic, let me know. I have a few more videos that are going to come out, but most of the tools to help tackle emotional eating are now out here. The rest is going to be kind of wrapping it up and taking it with you. So yeah, let me know, and I hope you guys have enjoyed this series. I've really enjoyed making it. I know the videos are kind of bare bones and just me talking to the camera, but this isn't a cutesy topic. This is a really serious topic, and I want to make sure that it is conveyed as such. So hopefully it's helpful to you. Let me know what you think, and I will talk to you soon.